Good morning, everybody. This is DearMamaSal on International Women's Day. And to all the international women, and I know they're across the world, have a happy day. Or for those of you who are in a different time zone from mine, I hope you had a happy day. Or for those who haven't quite got there yet, I hope you're going to have a happy day. It is 5 degrees here in southern British Columbia, which would make it 41 in America. Today I want to continue the story about love and communication, because the viewer's story I started to tell yesterday has more legs to it, as they say in the business. I am certain that anybody in a relationship understands that communication is probably one of the key points of a relationship. If you don't have communication in your relationship, then you are hoping that the marriage will stay together on very shaky ground, quite honestly. I think a lot of you have heard people say, we had a friendship first and then we fell in love, sort of thing. In other words, you need to be able to see your partner as a vital part of your existence. Not that you need them to survive, that's not true, but rather that their survival makes your life better. And we've had a lot of stuff in the news recently about Ronald and Nancy Reagan. And whenever you heard Nancy Reagan talk about President Reagan, she always did so with such adoration. And in fact, for a while, I think we wondered, those of us who lived through those years, we wondered whether it was all part of the actor and actress setup, because they both came from Hollywood. And yet the more you listen to people who were in their lives all their lives, you understand that this was an unbelievable romance for all of their lives. And I was listening to somebody say yesterday that even when he was sitting in the Oval Office, that the whole vibration of the room changed when Nancy came into the Oval Office. And some of his diaries where she had gone off to go and attend an international function, and the things that he would write in his diary about how he felt without her in the White House was quite honestly quite sad. Because obviously she completed him in a way that most of us would wish for. I think that would be the right thing. So I heard back from the viewer that I had talked about yesterday. And thank you so much, viewer. You know who you are, and I know who you are. And what I was delighted to hear from her in the second part of this was that she had already done what I was talking about yesterday. I would always start there, by the way. Watch what you're doing, number one, and secondly, get some input on this, preferably some professional input. But when I heard the second part of the story, I really smiled, because what I heard from the viewer was that she had done all these things. She had even, written, as I had suggested, written the issues down so that the man in her life could actually read them and process them, because we know men process very differently from women. And nothing worked, and he was not interested in doing anything to improve the situation. He just wanted to continue to blame it on her stuff, which may or may not have been true, by the way. And I'm sure the viewer will be the first one to nod and go, yeah, possibly. May or may not have been true, but here's the thing. He was not willing to do anything as a partnership to fix it. And a very smart viewer indeed said, okay, then I cannot stay in this relationship. Way to go, girl. Because if you are in a relationship where only one of you wants to improve the communication, and I've been there, then you're less than. I can remember being in I've been married twice, and the first marriage, I can remember my husband saying I should get some psychiatric help, which, really did my self-esteem a lot of good. So I did. Went to his psychiatrist. And therein is the other half of that story. And I sat down and said to the shrink, okay, fine, let's talk about this. I want to know whether I'm the one that should be here and not him. Or maybe we both need to be here. I said, I need to know that. And so, bless his heart, I remember the shrink talking to me and asking me all sorts of questions. And at the end of it, he laughed. And I didn't expect him to be laughing at me, quite honestly, but he was. And I said, why are you laughing at me? And he said, because you are a woman who has spent her life making major decisions. And you've been doing it since you were quite a young lady. And he said, you got given a trade, which is if you want to be married, you have to stop work. That was the trade for me. And you accepted that. Can't remember what the reason was for it, but I remember that was the trade. And he said, and now your major decision every day is which washing powder you're going to put in the washing machine. And I started to laugh as well. And he said, so if some of your thinking and some of your reactions at the moment are a little less than stellar, he said, it would have a lot to do with they're not very serious decisions. And quite honestly, you don't give a you know what. And he said, because it is minutia. Now, I love that word, which means, it's just so small. It's not worth worrying about. And it was really funny because I'd never thought about that I actually, for the longest time in my life, spent an awful lot of time making some pretty major decisions and doing quite well at it too. And so I really applaud the young lady, or whatever age she is, I can't remember now. Anyway, for the fact that she decided, hang on, I'm out of here. So this is what I wrote back. And on International Women's Day, I'm going to remind all the women who listen to this, and I'm also going to remind all the men who might listen to it. because this is about reality. Reality is you deserve to be in a relationship where you get treated with respect. You deserve to be in a relationship where somebody demonstrates their love, just talk about it. The words "I love you" are probably the most wasted and misused words that I know. I believe that everybody deserves to be in a relationship that challenges them a little. In other words, it doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to have these challenges in it so that you can work your way through your stuff. That's part of what being in a relationship is about. And it doesn't matter whether it's a husband-wife relationship or a friendship. This is about sometimes you have to challenge one another, which is really... and I do that quite a bit with my friendships. In fact, I have friends who actually come to me because they're wondering whether they're living in Disneyland, and if they want a sense of reality, they'll come and tell me their story, and I'll just look at them and I go, "Did you buy the tickets?" They go, "Disneyland, huh?" I go, "Uh-huh." Because what we want is our vision of a perfect relationship. We want to turn the excuse my language here, but we want to turn the shitty thing we've got now into the perfect one that we've seen on the movies. Well, hello? That's Disneyland thinking. You know, that is not reality thinking. That's Disneyland thinking. You cannot turn somebody who treats you badly into somebody who treats you well. Somebody who treats you badly does not love you. Now, it doesn't mean they have to agree with you all the time. There's a difference there. But somebody who puts you down, or somebody who treats you like you're a raving idiot, you know, nobody needs that in a relationship. And so always my first line of defense whenever I hear these stories is, you know, get some help. And why do I always start with that? Because let's make sure that you're not part of the problem. And as I said yesterday, all too often, you know, our communication skills are not too stellar either. You know, we use tears or attacks instead of words. And for any of you who've ever lived through a 2-year-old, a toddler stage of children, you know, they use tantrums instead of words. Because they don't have the words to tell you how frustrated they are, they throw a tantrum. Well, I've got news for you. I used to be a 2-year-old. The only problem was I was an adult. I wonder how many of you relate to that. When I think back, some of my behaviors were really quite childish. And I'm laughing because, you know, I really thought I was the bee's knees. But some of my behaviors were quite childish. So, but I also know that some of the reasons were because I was being treated in a very strange way. And I guess at some level I knew I deserved better. But I didn't know how to get out. There are not too many movies about how do you get out of a relationship that's not working. And there was a lot of training in my background, because I grew up with the nuns, about, you know, that it was my job to make it work. And don't get me wrong, I'm a great believer that anything should be done to make a relationship work. But again, if only one person wants to do the work, then the other person needs to get the help, because part of the help they need is how to cope with this or get out of this. Awesome. So on International Women's Day, you have the right to be happy. For some, it may not include the perfect person. It may not include the perfect family. But you have the right to be happy, so you can find people who fulfill those needs. Or, as I've said to many people, tell me why you need a man in your life, and they tell me, and then I listen to it for quite a while, and at the end of it I'm saying, with the exception of one or two little bits in there, you'd be happier with a dog. Because what they want is somebody who's always happy to see them, and they want somebody who'll listen, and somebody they can go to for walks with. You know, I mean, I'm listening to all these things and I'm going, yeah, dog would do that for you. So, and that's not as stupid as it sounds for quite a few people. They actually decided maybe that's true. Maybe what I need is a dog. And I say that with lots of love. All right, so for all of you in very happy relationships, well done. And I often wonder whether you had totally different training than those of us who didn't end up in perfect relationships. I will never know. All I know is that I grew up in the dysfunctional family that I grew up in, and my role model of what happiness looked like wasn't actually happiness at all. And so, no big surprise that it didn't work out. But you know, I also didn't grow up with a family that treated me well either. So I created, I've always had around me my own extended family. I created one. And as you all know, that really fulfills my life in so many ways. I never had children, therefore I never had grandchildren, but you know, I get to play with them now. I always find it interesting that men say their needs are so simple and women's needs are so complicated. That is true in some ways. I would agree with it. But then you could say the same of children. You know, adults' needs are quite simple. Children's needs are quite complicated. And for the first little while, they can't even tell you what's wrong. And what is relationship is that we actually work through that and find a way. We find a way to communicate. Children do. If the person in your relationship is screaming like a child, then maybe they got something going on like a child does. Their version of wet diapers, their version of I hurt and I don't know how to tell you this. And if the person in your life is avoiding you, it's pretty sure that the reason they're avoiding you is because they don't want the drama. Is it they don't want the drama because they don't know how to deal with drama, or is it because you just are one drama person? Day after day after day. Do you know, but even that doesn't mean you can't be in a great relationship. I've met some really incredible drama people. And they've been in very long-term committed relationships and appear to be quite happy campers. Why? Because the other gets amused by the temper tantrums. Or they can just roll their eyes and know that's, that's part of their passion. And I say that because, normally it works both ways. I've always said temperament works both ways, not one way. And so I've met quite a few people that, they just go, no, don't worry, they'll calm down soon. They're just having a moment, And they don't say it with disrespect. Because they normally say it's what I love about him. At least I know where he stands. And I know right now he's not very happy. But they do it with love. They say that with love. They don't say it with, oh, I'm the victim, he's always talking to me like this, da 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 da. Just his way of communicating. With love. Alright everybody, have a super International Women's Day. And have a look at your stuff and see again how your communication is going. To the viewer that wrote, thank you so much. I have had at least some people write to me and talk to me about their issue. So thank you for writing, because each one of you who writes helps me help somebody else. And for that I am so duly thankful. Alright everybody, have a great day. This is DearMamaSal saying bye-bye for now.